Howdy. Some of you know me, and that is a great misfortune, and I'd like to apologize. But for those of you that don't, my name is Colton Collison. A brief introduction, because again, some of you don't know me. Well, I'm from Texarkana, Texas. I was born and raised there. I've been around the country. I accidentally went to Mexico once. I was in the Navy for a few years. I lived in Montana. I'm on and off homeless. And I like guns and beer and angry women and cigarettes. So that's who I am. And I'm telling you this so that later on, none of you can come call me a commie for wanting less power in the hands of the state. And none of you can call me a Nazi for the same thing. I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Now, me and my friends are a bunch of big burly guys with guns. And we are going to take everyone that lives in our territory that owns a vehicle like the one behind me. Not just a red Chevrolet pickup, but any vehicle that is approved by us to be used on a public road that these people have already paid for. Well, we're going to take all these people that live in our territory, and we're going to charge them a fee to be able to use that vehicle on our roads they were nice enough to pay for. Now, what they've got to do is they've got to go down to a friend of ours, one of our employees, and they've got to ask that person how much they have to pay, and it's going to depend on what that vehicle's worth. Well, then after they do that, that person's going to tell them, oh, you owe me $300. And they're going to go to the next person who takes all our money for us, and they're going to give them $300. Well, then after they do that, that person's going to give them a little slip of paper proving that they have paid this amount of money to us. And then they're going to have to go down the street to someone else's house that works for us, and then they're going to give that person the receipt showing that they paid the $300 to be able to drive their vehicle on our roads. Bear in mind, these people paid for our roads. Once they do that, that person is going to give them a little sticker to put on the back of their vehicle to indicate that they're good. It's totally okay with us to drive on our roads. Now, there's some stipulations here. First of all, they have to have the vehicle insured through some other friends of ours that don't work for us, but we know pretty well. Those people are charging them insurance. And what that means is if they cause an accident, or if there is an accident, those people can make sure their stuff's paid off, and the other person, if they are at fault, their stuff's paid off too. So after they've done that, is the one precluding thing to being able to go through this process to have this vehicle be allowed to drive on our roads. Now, you're probably thinking that's preposterous. You and your buddies aren't going to come to my home and order me at gunpoint to do anything. Well, you know what? You're right. We're not. But the state of Arkansas is. Now, I want you to think about this. I just described to you the process for getting a vehicle lawfully registered in the state of Arkansas. And it probably upset you because you thought it was a gang of hooligans in Hawaiian shirts with 45s on their hips, and not a bunch of guys in blue uniforms with Crown Vics and assault rifles and MRAPs. The term is racketeering, and racketeering, I'll give you the closest to the dictionary definition as I can remember, is to basically cause someone a problem in which giving you, or the person causing the problem, money or a valuable good is the only solution. It's extortion. Now, you probably know what extortion is. And extortion is if I walked up to you right now and pointed my pistol at you and said, give me your wallet, or I'm going to kill you. That is extortion. I'm making you face an ultimatum in which you have to give me something, or I am going to cause you problems. Now, I have several questions about this, and one of those might be, well, first of all, why is it any of your business what I do with my truck? In this case, it's my late grandmother's truck that was left to the estate when she passed away and is now in my possession, that she bought brand new off the Royal Chevrolet lot in Pullman, Arkansas in the year 2000. It's a 3-door. So last year that option was offered. It's got GM's 6-cylinder in it. I forget which one exactly. I haven't touched this thing in a while. At one point, it's a pristine one-owner truck. It's still got, I think, less than 60,000 miles on it. My sister had it for a while before I did, and was involved in an accident with it in Houston. Tragically, she lived. Now, the point I'm making here is this truck hasn't changed hands monetarily. This is not a sales tax. This is a property tax. This is taxes you pay on an item you possess simply for possessing it. Now, I don't own a home. As I mentioned, I live out of my other truck, my F-150, that is in Montana right now, where this is not a necessary part of the process, to my understanding. But to my understanding, you do pay taxes on your home and your land. You do pay taxes on your vehicle, but I don't pay taxes on, say, that rake over there, or my dog, which is another piece of property that I own, even though I don't consider him an object. I don't pay taxes on my boots. I don't pay taxes on, hey, what's another family heirloom? My grandfather's shotgun he left me. I don't pay taxes on my guitar. I don't pay taxes on that birdhouse over there. I don't pay taxes on any of that. But I do pay taxes on the two things very vital for a human being to live in the modern Western civilization: my home and my vehicle. My question for you this is, why? Why am I paying taxes for something that, well, why am I giving anyone money to own something that isn't theirs to begin with? They're not leasing it to me. I'm sure they had no prior arrangement that concerns me with the person that built it or the person that sold it to me. I'm just paying it because this red Chevrolet has sat in my yard for however long. So, first question there should be is why property taxes in the first place? Again, this truck hasn't monetarily changed hands. This truck has simply, whenever someone needed it, they were given the keys and sent on the way. I've used this thing to go pick up groceries probably about 2,000 times in my life. I took my first Arkansas driver's license skills test so that I could also get the approval of the state of Arkansas to drive this vehicle on public roads. And occasionally it's pulled a trailer with a lawnmower or a canoe on it. And my question for you is, what is the practical reason? How does it serve the interest of you and I as a taxpayer to pay taxes on this truck, if it were yours, for instance? Well, it doesn't. Now, I can kind of understand, even if I don't agree with, the concept of a driver's license. We want to ensure that we have safe drivers on the roads because we don't want people to die. As evil as I think this system is, I don't think it legitimately is okay with seeing its constituents die for no reason. If anything, because that's where it gets its tax dollars from, and because fire and police and ambulance services cost the state money. Now, why am I paying to have it registered in the first place? Why is it any of the state's business what I own, as long as I'm already complying with the law otherwise? Well, that's interesting. What if it's stolen? Well, if it's stolen, that's my concern. What if my boots are stolen, or my gun is stolen, or my rake is stolen? None of those things are registered, and it probably wouldn't do me any good if they were, because time and time again, I'd say probably the majority of cases of stolen vehicles, they're never recovered, and if they are, they're not returned in usable condition to the owner. My stuff is gone at that point. Now, beyond that, we have to ask, okay, at what point did this become the law? Why was it allowed? And I'll tell you. During the second Roosevelt administration, FDR, not Theodore, who I think was a pretty cool guy, but FDR I'm not a fan of, the country was going through the Depression, and the government, whose job we had decided at that point, which was the Foundation for Social Security and Welfare and all these other things, decided that, hey, it's our job to take care of you. We're now your dad. So, because everyone in America is starving and broke, not everyone, but most people are starving and broke. Central Texas and the Panhandle and Oklahoma are having issues with food production, and there's big scary dust storms everywhere. Well, the government needs money to fix these things. Well, what can we do? Well, there's a few things we could do. We can lift prohibition and tax alcohol, and that actually kind of worked for putting money in the government's pockets. Then we can pass the National Firearms Act and require an excise $200 tax stamp for every rifle or shotgun with less than 16 and 18-inch barrel, respectively. And then we can also do the same thing with machine guns, and later on we're going to do it with silencers and grenades. And I'm not here to talk about gun control today. I'm always willing to talk about gun control because it's kind of the same vein in the mind here. But then we're also going to take all these automobiles everyone has now, that they're all driving on these public roads that are maintained by the government, and we're going to charge them money to have those too. We're going to charge them money to drive them on these roads. It was a revenue-raising measure that was enacted during a time of hardship for everyone. At the time, maybe might have made a little sense, maybe might have served a little good, but ultimately was carried on 90 years after it was necessary. Well, 70 years after it was necessary, depending on when you think the Great Depression ended. Now, why is this still the law? Well, because most people have decided that's the way it was always done here. And they said, you know what, I'm okay going and paying a little bit of money because it's too much hassle for me to go call my state senators and my congressmen and go and write a letter to the governor and call the governor's mansion and go protest. That was too much trouble. It was easier to go work my 9 to 5, take the L on the couple $100, and then just go drive my truck to the bar or wherever I've got to go. Well, then I want you to think about this. What about the people that don't have that kind of money? I'm an out-of-work veteran. I'm surviving off of my parents right now. A lot of people don't have that luxury. Take a single mother. Maybe her parents are dead, incarcerated, or indisposed. We don't know where they are. She doesn't have the ability to go and ask them for help. Take a homeless person who has been blessed to still have his vehicle, hasn't lost that yet. That's his lifeline. It's probably his home. And you are making him a criminal every time he takes it off of private property, or that single mother takes it out of her apartment complex because she can't afford to go pay taxes and get the vehicle registered. This is unacceptable. This is the definition. This is textbook racketeering. This cannot continue. And you might think, well, it's just a citation, it's a misdemeanor at most if you drive without registered plates and you don't have insurance and all this. Well, you're right. But if I had the money to deal with those things, I'd have the money to deal with having registration and insurance on my vehicle. Regardless, the concept is the same. If you're robbing me of $5 or $5,000, you've still robbed me. And if I refuse to pay the government of the state of Arkansas to lawfully operate my lawfully owned property on roads that I kind of lawfully paid for, they're going to come to my house and put me in a cage. They're going to take me away from my home, probably in the middle of the night, at gunpoint, and put me in a cage. And if I fight back, I'm going to be shot and killed. It's going to happen, and it happens every day. Now, many of you back the blue, especially in Texarkana. I've noticed that, and I think you should be proud that you were willing to stick to your principles and back your hometown heroes that you believe are standing up for your rights and safety. And I would earnestly hope that if the day should ever come that something more extreme like mass gun confiscation that everyone is worried about, because we do like our guns here, they have the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that, at the risk of their job and even possibly imprisonment themselves. But they're doing it right now with this pickup. They're doing it right now with some of yours. They're doing it right now if you don't pay your property taxes on your home. They'll come to your house, state police, county sheriff, and the police department, if not the IRS, and they'll come there and they're going to kick you out, evict you, state will repossess it, it'll go to auction and get sold to someone else, and they're going to be put back in the same conundrum. I want you to heavily consider this. The ethical and moral implications of being forced to pay the government for something you already own. As well, I cannot stop from going back to the term racketeering. I want you to Google that word real quick and get the definition from Wikipedia. You are being racketeered. You're being extorted right now by your own elected officials. I don't think Asa Hutchinson is a bad man. I'm not a big fan of most politicians, but I think Asa Hutchinson is not terrible, which is about the biggest compliment I can give a politician at all. But he's more than likely aware of this and is more than likely allowed it to go on. He's also the one man in the state with the authority to issue an executive order stopping it from happening. Now, it'll still be the law in the books, you're right, but he can stop enforcement of any law. He can say, hey, Arkansas State Police, I am ordering you to stand down for enforcing that. That's going to put a lot less hitch in the giddy up of the local boys and the sheriff to go enforce it themselves. So, what I want you to do right now, even though it's a Saturday, they'll get the voicemail, is I want you to properly smoke your cigarette so it doesn't go out while you're talking. Then, I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to call your elected representatives and I want you to call the mayor and the sheriff and hell, call everybody you can find that works for the government of Arkansas. Call the damn janitor, poor guy. And I want you to tell them I am not okay with this continuing. I want you to write letters. I want you to go to the governor's mansion. I want you to go to the Capitol. I want you to go to City Hall. I want you to go to the courthouse. I want you to go to the tax assessor and the tax collector's office. And I want you to go to the DMV. And I want you to throw a squalling fit. And I want you to say, I am not going to be extorted at gunpoint by you anymore. Maybe even take the risk, which I think you ought to, and drive anyway without it. And then if enough people do that, it becomes pretty much impossible to enforce. Just like marijuana, texting and driving, gun control, The state of Kentucky, which is another problem and not ours, having ice cream in your back pocket on a Tuesday or a Sunday. Pronouncing it Arkansas, anywhere in the state of Arkansas. That's a state-level misdemeanor I just committed on camera for you. That's what I want you to do. This country was founded on government by the people, a government that serves the interests of the people, not serves the interests of itself. I want you to remember, these people vote on their own pay raises. They are paid out of your tax dollars, the same ones they create the law that forces you to pay. Consider all of these things, make a decision. If you don't want to do that, well, then you're either lazy, complicit, or part of the problem. If you are part of the problem, I would heavily consider finding a different profession. Pronto. So, I'm going to go inside and make another cup of coffee and go about the rest of my day. Then later, I'm going to take this truck illegally to the gas station and put air in the tires because I've let it sit for a month. I hope this helps. Have a good one.